The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ. And it's a rainy Friday morning.
It's Friday in the Riv.
And
off we go with
the 13th of Friday the 13th in 2020. What worse can happen, right?
That's right. Get your black cat, put it on a leash, and go walk on the ladders.
There you go. That's how it works. Okay, so Commander COVID here. Total number of cases in Massachusetts is 174,593. Total new cases was 2,482. Total deaths is 10,243. New deaths is 21. Bristol County has 15,073 cases. The mayor's office must be getting lazy because I didn't get a press release from them yesterday, but the mayor did post it on Facebook. He said, today we have had an 88 case increase in our COVID cases, and we were unfortunately made aware of one more fatality, which puts us at 141 in total. But it didn't give us the total of people who have COVID in Fall River or who have had COVID in Fall River, which is 3,499. I added it up from the previous day's numbers. So is he trying to avoid the 3,500 mark?
Well, we're obviously we've got a problem, and that's the irony of this whole thing is just it's not lost, at least on me, because we see now we see the shift in attitude now about COVID. Before this was, a national disgrace and it was all about Trump. And now that they have anointed Joe Biden as the president, in spite of the fact that it's not official yet, but it looks like it. But then again, you never know because there are a lot of cases ongoing. But you notice that the shift in attitude now. Now it's like everybody's happy and, oh, yes, we're all going to work together. And, but the cases are going up. And now we're talking about a national mask mandate. And I guess Rand Paul was on saying that it's unconstitutional. And so we're talking about mask mandates and all kinds of other things. But now there's no blame game going on. Oh, all of a sudden we're all working together. It's that's it. So it doesn't make any difference that we're totally ineffective, but we're all working together. So that really gives me pause to kind of laugh at this whole situation. Look, let's face it, and I don't have to tell you, you're a healthcare professional, but they don't have a clue. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Just look at Europe. Some countries locked down tighter than a drum, and others didn't. And they're all having resurgence and things. And look, it's a new disease. They don't know about mutations. There's so much we know a hell of a lot less than we do about it. And the only way to learn about it is watch the disease and study it. And that's what medical science is doing. And the irony is that now all of a sudden they're throwing kudos to the pharmaceutical companies that they were condemning before because now the pharmaceutical companies gave them campaign funds. So I'm just looking at the difference in attitude. I don't know if you've noticed it, but it's actually nauseating to watch how people can just completely flip. Like all of a sudden everything was a horrible thing. Now everything's wonderful. It's like that's it. Everything's beautiful.
Well, what's interesting is, Biden says he has a plan to get this under control. We haven't heard it. And does that plan include a lockdown? I mean, Gina Raimondo threatened yesterday to lock down the state of Rhode Island once again if people don't start complying. I'm waiting to see what the governor has to say today, because if, in Massachusetts, if he says that, these are going to be economic destruction modes. And, you know, these things will destroy the economy even further. As it is, the restriction on restaurants and bars and package stores to 10 o'clock at night is, you know, it's hurting some of these businesses tremendously. And we have to look at what's happening. Now, according to the Herald News, they say that most of the increases in Fall River are coming from nursing homes. And they attribute 36 cases to Catholic Memorial Home, and I'm sure to several other homes. How did the senior citizens get it in the homes? How did they get it? They didn't get it because they were outside, you know, with everybody else. Somebody came in with it. And somebody came in with it who was partying or doing something and not following the rules. And they brought it into these nursing homes. It doesn't just appear. So we have to say to ourselves and to everyone else, why are we going to point the finger at the nursing homes? You can't point your finger at the nursing homes and say it's their fault. That's what they tried to do elsewhere. And it's not their fault.
Oh.
People have to take responsibility for their actions. And if you're going to have a party, guess what? You're going to pay for it somehow. It's going to become a super spreader event. And I'm going to wait 10 to 14 days again and see what happens with cases. 10 to 14 days will be after yesterday's Memorial Motorcade, Veteran Day Motorcade, and we'll see how many cases go up from there. Because people didn't social distance in some cases. But the people in the motorcade supposedly were all wearing masks and they were all social distancing, which is a good thing. So I've got to give them credit for that.
Yeah. Well, look, as you said, nursing homes, they're not out and about in the malls and partying and going down to the beach and running around in their bathing suits. They're you know, most of those people are barely ambulatory. They stay in the home. They very rarely get out, if at all, and if they do, it's probably out on the veranda or something like that. So, yeah, right. There's a problem. Obviously, there's a problem. Somebody's bringing it in, and therein lies the problem. They think that masks are this mandate, and I think you hit a very important point. They're talking about shutting everything down now, and as that term that I love that you coined, the spendocrats. And I was looking at one of Biden's cabinet appointees talking about how, hey, we're just going to shut the whole country down for 4 to 6 weeks and we'll just give everybody money. So that'll help the economy. No, it won't. No, it won't. Besides that, we're going to break the country's back economically. We've already got a virtually almost unpayable national debt. It's as large as it was in the Second World War. So, I mean, that's the typical spendocrat response. Throw money at the problem, because if you look at all the states that are in financial trouble, they're mostly blue states, because in blue states like Massachusetts, what's the answer to every problem? Throw money at it. Even if you don't have it, just throw money. So their solution is to shut the country down for 4 to 6 weeks and then give people a whole bunch of money so they can pay their rent. But then when the 6 weeks is up, they're all going to come out. And if they don't change the behaviors, as you said, that's spreading the disease, it's going to resurge again. And some of those businesses will never recover. How many restaurants in New York City are closed for good? Jobs gone. The economy is now impacted by the loss of those economic stimulators. Those restaurants pay taxes. They employ people who spend money, and they're gone. And there are literally hundreds of restaurants just in New York City and thousands of restaurants and businesses throughout the country that are gone forever. And they continue to think that locking everybody down and giving them money is going to cure the problem. And I don't believe it will be. And the hypocrisy of it all is just mind-boggling. I mean, I don't watch The View, but I saw an excerpt from The View. And it was absolutely disgusting watching those nitwits who have spent the last 4 years condemning a duly elected president. And if you remember correctly, CJ, they were all on there just months ago saying, I'm not taking that. I'm not going to take that vaccine. Trump's got something to do with that vaccine. I won't take that. I will not take that. Not that the pharmaceutical companies and the Food and Drug Administration don't look at this stuff. But now all of a sudden, Biden got elected, and they showed a clip from there the other day. They were literally euphoric, dancing around on a set going, oh my God, we got a vaccine. We got a vaccine. I can get out of my fat pants and go back to the gym and lose some weight. And they were all happy, and they were like, it was unbelievable. It was like they were all high. They must have all went to the pot shop before the show. They were all... These are the same people that when Donald Trump was the president were saying, don't take the vaccine. I'm not taking that vaccine. It's the same damn vaccine. Jeez. I mean, so that's going to get me to a quote. I looked it up again because I remember this one. Because this is an example of them. Martin Luther King. Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And if that was ever described, there it is on The View. Those imbeciles were telling the entire country on a national platform they shouldn't trust the vaccine because Donald Trump was the president, like he was in the lab at Pfizer and all these other places. Don't take it just because Donald Trump is the president, because Donald Trump is an alien. He's like the Antichrist, and he affects everything in the world. And anything that happens with Donald Trump here is bad, including pharmaceutical companies trying to make billions of dollars with a vaccine. Don't take it. Let yourself die. Don't even take a chance. And then as soon as Joe Biden is elected or pseudo-elected, de facto elected, that's it. They're all dancing around a set. They're gonna can't wait to get that vaccine now. They can't wait. I mean, talk about hypocrisy. It's just like you can have an opinion as long as it's theirs. If you don't have the same opinion, they want to shoot you. They want to, run you over. And they, and now a police officer,
burn your business down.
Unfortunately, the police officer was shot in Arkansas, but that'll be okay because he's a police officer. So this society is just, that half of society has, as far as I'm concerned, they're nothing more than hypocrites, and they have a dual standard. And your standard should be everything. If somebody's an idiot, it doesn't matter whether he's a Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative. Those are all just labels. Let's just call it what it is. And that show, watching that excerpt really, really said everything.
Well,
because
right.
Now they can't wait to get the vaccine.
You're right. Because remember, when Trump said that we will have a vaccine, short by the time of the election, they said you're wrong, and he was wrong. It came out shortly after the election. As a matter of fact, it was 4 or 5 days after the election. Now, Trump's program called Warp Speed was to get this vaccine made rapidly. According to what I've been told, Pfizer took no government money, and they were working on this right away. I don't care who came up with it. Who's going to pay for it? That's the big question. Because guess what? Pfizer is sitting on a bank They're sitting on a bank, and all they got to do is open the door and let the stuff start flowing, and the gold's going to start coming in. It won't even be paper money. It will be gold, because that's what they're sitting on. They're sitting on a gold mine. So it's going to be interesting to see. But remember, it is the same vaccine. And people said they wouldn't take it. I still probably won't take the vaccine. Not because of who's going into office, not because of who was in office, but because I don't think that they can prove a vaccine effective in 2 months. Most vaccines, they're in production for 10 years of studies before they're released. 10 years. And then we get them. But we can get one approved in 2 months, 2 weeks. We've seen more medications approved right away for emergency usage without testing, without anything. What's going to happen in 5 or 10 years when we start seeing that these meds, like we've seen with metformin, like we saw with Zantac, like we saw with others, where they're causing cancers? Who's going to pay for it then? Because these companies were forced to get them approved fast without studies. That's what's going to happen. And again, you'll have all the ankle-biting lawyers all running around saying, oh, we're going to sue, we're going to sue, we're going to sue. And it makes it very difficult. It's going to make it more and more difficult for pharmacy companies to develop new meds, because they're going to be afraid of getting sued by some ambulance-chasing lawyer. And that's a big problem. That's a big problem for healthcare. But again,
yeah, you're right. But I mean, what about that? Remember that drug? And I saw I saw somebody mention it, and it reminded me of it. Remember that drug you talk about down the road, and that's the problem. You don't know what long-term effects are. And you're right. But I mean, what was it? I think it started with a T, and it created hideous birth defects. But they thought at one time it was a wonder drug. They were prescribing it to pregnant women. The something might or something like that. It started with a T, I think. Do you remember that? But it caused really severe.
And the babies were born with flippers, and they called them the same thing. The name just escapes me now.
Yeah, but I mean, there's an example of a drug that looks pretty good at first, and they were prescribing it because they thought it was good, and then they found out it created, hideous birth defects and stuff. But that's the problem. I know that when my son took
thalidomide.
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, I know it started with a T, but I remember, and I guess that you did. I don't know if you got the same thing, CJ, but my son told me when he took pharmacology, because they have to take pharmacology, obviously, and the professor that was teaching the class, when he walked in, he told the entire class, he said, if you can show me a drug with no side effects, you don't have to come to class and you'll get an A, because there's not a drug in the world without side effects.
That's right.
Some of them are extremely mild and tolerable, but he was told right out of the gate, the problem with drugs are there's never been a drug ever developed that doesn't have some side effects. Some of them are relatively innocuous and mild, and some of them are tremendously, problematic. And if you listen to these commercials that they've done, I mean, you listen to some of these commercials, it's like, oh, you want to cure your psoriasis, but oh, by the way, one of the side effects is, your head can explode, you can get cancer, your stomach can fall out. So it's like, well, I think I'll go with the psoriasis if you listen closely, because some of the side effects are, a death, can cause death. So therein lies the problem. As you said, we've got a pandemic, and they're looking for something to basically eliminate it, and everybody like that. But as you said, if you take that drug, you don't know what's going to happen, because realistically, like you said, sometimes it takes years to see the effects of these drugs. the actual effects of these drugs, and that's always a scary proposition, and it's too bad. But I think that if they develop actual ways to treat the disease that can cure most people, if they find some therapeutic kind of things that they can do, and they have already gotten some of these things that will, if they catch it early, they can do something. But hey, it is what it is. But maybe now it won't be used as a political football because the great orange monster may not be the president. So, and that's the case. We don't care what happens because everybody can have a party and get out of their fat pants and go to the gym and lose weight, and Joy Behar can be happy, and all the rest of them can be happy. And so they're ecstatic now. Where a month ago they were saying, I'll never take that vaccine, but now they're lining up for it. So welcome to our world and the world of politics. And I know you're watching out there, the guys who say they're unsubscribing, but you're sneaking a look. But
well, what's interesting is
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What's interesting is that all these people are on, they're still remaining on both sides of the aisle in this election process. And while the election hasn't been called, it kind of does look like Joe Biden is going to be the next president. How much of a fight Trump is going to give is another story. We're seeing it now. Some of his lawsuits are being dismissed, but the recounts are happening. But again, the deadline is December 14th. All the states must report to the Senate their counts, their election results, and who their electors are for the Electoral College. And no state since 1800 and something has ever missed that deadline. So we'll see what happens when December 14th rolls around. That's for sure. And maybe we can finally put this to bed.
Listen. Well, that's the key. The key is that for the spendocrats who are whining about this process, we truly need the process, not to elect Donald Trump or to elect Joe Biden, but to protect the integrity of the voting process for the American public. This should not be an exercise in criminal behavior. We used to always use Mayor Daley in Chicago as a pathetic joke to the right of an American to vote, the legal right. And it's not a right, it's actually a privilege. You earn that right by following the law and registering to vote and be a qualified voter. We can't have elections fixed by political parties, by criminals. We all know there's voter fraud. You can virtually never eliminate it, but you can't have the mass kind of fraud that we saw today. So this is more than about See, they make everything about Donald Trump. Isn't it amazing? I'm surprised they haven't accused him of being in a Japanese Zero that bombed Pearl Harbor, sinking the Maine. I'm surprised he wasn't part of the assassination plot of Abraham Lincoln and all the rest of everything that's happened in the world. He's probably actually he's like the devil. He lives forever. He goes back to prehistoric times but it's not about Donald Trump. It's about the integrity of an election. We can't have people manipulating the rules. It's like your vote does not count, dummies. You Democrats that are so happy and you want this thing to be allowed to happen, what'll happen if it turns around and they do it to you? You'll be screaming. The reality is that you cannot allow an election. You can't allow, and as a matter of fact, Trump's team did win one. They ruled that the Secretary of State in Pennsylvania had no right to change the date.
Right.
For the correction of signatures. So, the thing is that we have a constitution. You should be, but for Joe Biden, we had computer glitches that were in favor of only one side. If you truly value your vote, you should want this thing to be adjudicated, no matter what side you're on. the use of going to the polls, voting for your candidate, when somebody has got a truck full of ballots that they're going to drive to the polls later on and hand out? So your candidate doesn't win, or even if he doesn't win, he's not winning legitimately. Voting is a privilege, and Americans earn that right to vote. A lot of people have died to give us this nation, and to have it turn into a third world country where elections are decided before they're ever held is just wrong. I'm sorry. If you can't see that, you're an idiot. If you can't see this is more, everything's about Donald Trump. This is about the integrity of an election. And as you said, CJ, it looks like he's not going to win.
Right.
Regardless, because it's just not enough. But this election has been tampered with to such a high degree that they'll never undo all the stuff that they did. Backdating ballots, postmarking, changing, postmarking ballots from before the election, backdating the postmarks. I mean, there's allegations of everything, and they've proven a lot. There's hundreds and hundreds of examples, not hundreds of thousands, maybe not enough to change a presidential election, but to change a local election maybe, because what's done on a presidential level has also been done on every level of government. We have to have confidence in the integrity of the system. That's what this is about. This is law. This transcends Biden and Trump. This is about, does your vote really count? And if it's an illegal vote, it shouldn't count. And if it's a legal vote, it should count. It's one vote, and it should count. But if it's erased by somebody who was born in 1823 that voted and just registered to vote in October, but he died in 1823, and they do have that record, and they were reading obituaries. You know, what does that tell you as an American? Why bother going to the polls if this is what's going to happen? That people are going to rig an election, and, then we might as well call this place, like Russia. They complain about Putin. They complain about all these despots getting in with elections that are preset. This is important. This is not about Donald Trump. This is about your vote. And the value of your vote. That's
right. And that's something that we have to do. Hey, just a quick note. This is how they pass controversial laws in Massachusetts. The Reproductive Freedom Act is under attack across the country, but today Mass lawmakers decided to lead the fight back by adopting Amendment number 759 into the House budget, which will improve equitable access to safe legal abortion care in the Commonwealth. It was too controversial to stand on its own, so plug it into the budget, which they approved, a $46 billion budget, and that way it gets approved. This is how the pork barrel projects get put in and approved, because nobody has to take responsibility for it because they're voting on the budget. But these things attack, little paper clips all over the budget. Telling you, it's amazing. But they actually posted the roll call vote board on Facebook, and I thought that was funny. Well, it looks like we're going to be out of time here. I hope you all enjoyed your Veterans Day. I hope you reached out to a veteran and said thank you for your service. I know I called Chip and said thank you for your service. And remember, your vote counts, and it's all about the system. Stay safe and stay angry, and we'll see you on Monday.
Yeah, and read that roll call vote if you're pro-life.